The night the truth surfaced, Michael Turner felt his chest tighten the same way it had the night his wife died. Sharp, sudden, unforgiving. He stood frozen in the doorway of a softly lit restaurant, rain still clinging to his jacket, realizing that agreeing to a blind date might change everything he had fought so hard to hold together. He wasn't ready for love, he wasn't ready for pain, and he definitely wasn't ready for who she really was. Before the story unfolds any further, take a second. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of human connection, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Michael Turner was a single father in his late 30s, living in a small town outside Columbus, Ohio. His life revolved around early mornings, packed lunches, and the steady breathing of his 7-year-old son, Noah, as he slept each night since losing his wife, Rebecca, to a sudden illness 4 years earlier. Michael had learned how to function on autopilot. He worked as a mechanical engineer during the day and became a full-time parent the moment he stepped through his front door. Love, romance, and companionship felt like distant concepts meant for other people without grief stitched into their routines. It was his sister-in-law, Karen, who pushed the idea of a blind date. She said Michael deserved happiness again, that Noah deserved to see his father smile the way he used to. Michael resisted for months, arguing that his life was stable and quiet was safe. But one evening, after Noah asked why his dad never laughed anymore, something cracked open inside him. Against his better judgment, Michael agreed. The blind date was arranged with minimal details. Her name was Sarah. She lived nearby. She liked books, old movies, and coffee shops that stayed open too late. That was all Michael knew as he drove through the rain to a modest restaurant in downtown Columbus, rehearsing excuses in his head in case he needed to leave early. Inside, the restaurant glowed with warm lights and soft music. Michael felt awkward, out of place, like a man pretending to be someone else. Then he saw her. Sarah Whitmore sat alone at a corner table, hands folded, eyes scanning the room with the same nervous hope he felt. She had kind eyes, the kind that suggested she listened more than she spoke. And when she smiled at him, something unfamiliar stirred in his chest. The evening unfolded gently. There was no rush, no pressure. Michael found himself relaxing, talking about work, about Noah, about how life had changed him in ways he never expected. Sarah listened with genuine attention, not pity, not discomfort. She shared pieces of her own life, moving often, starting over more times than she could count, learning how to be strong when stability was never guaranteed. Michael felt seen, understood, and for the first time in years, not alone. But beneath Sarah's calm presence was something unspoken. Michael sensed it in the way she hesitated before answering certain questions, the way her smile faltered when he mentioned Rebecca. There was a weight she carried, something unresolved, something waiting. As the night stretched on, Sarah finally asked about Noah. Michael's voice softened as he spoke about his son's curiosity, his resilience, the way he still talked to his mother's photo every night. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, and she looked down, struggling to compose herself. That was when the truth began to surface. Sarah wasn't just another woman on a blind date. She was a social worker. And not just any social worker. She worked in family services, specifically cases involving widowers and single parents. Months earlier, she had been assigned to a community outreach program that included Michael's name on a list of parents who had declined support services after loss. She had read his file. She knew his story long before she knew his face. Michael felt betrayed, exposed. The fragile sense of safety he had allowed himself shattered instantly. His mind raced with questions. Was this date a coincidence? Was she studying him? Was this some kind of evaluation disguised as kindness? Sarah explained, slowly and carefully, that the blind date hadn't been part of her job. Karen, Michael's sister-in-law, was a friend from college who had no idea about Sarah's professional connection to Michael's past. When Sarah realized who Michael was during the date, she panicked, unsure whether to tell him or walk away. She chose honesty, even knowing it might cost her everything. Michael left the restaurant that night feeling hollow. Memories he had buried resurfaced. Home visits, pamphlets he never read, calls he never returned. He had refused help because he believed strength meant doing everything alone. Now, the one moment of connection he'd allowed himself felt contaminated by professional boundaries and painful reminders. Days passed in silence. Michael threw himself into routines again, but something had shifted. He noticed how empty the house felt once Noah went to bed. He caught himself replaying Sarah's laughter, her empathy, the way she never tried to fix him. The anger softened into confusion, then into a quiet ache. Meanwhile, Sarah wrestled with guilt and fear. She considered requesting a transfer, stepping away from work entirely. She hadn't meant to cross lines or reopen wounds. She had simply been human, craving connection as much as Michael had. But she also knew that sometimes life brought people together in the most complicated ways. The turning point came unexpectedly. Noah fell ill one night, a high fever that sent Michael rushing to the emergency room. Sitting in the sterile waiting area, exhaustion and fear crashing over him, Michael felt the same helplessness he had felt years earlier when Rebecca slipped away. That was when he saw Sarah. She was there for work, assisting another family, and when their eyes met, there was no awkwardness, only concern. She didn't overstep. She didn't offer advice. She simply sat nearby, a quiet presence in a moment of chaos. And for Michael, that was enough. Noah recovered quickly, but something inside Michael healed more slowly and more deeply. He realized that strength didn't mean isolation. It meant allowing people to stand beside you without fear. Days later, Michael reached out to Sarah, not as a client, not as a case, but as a man ready to try again. They took things slowly, walks in the park, coffee shared on cold mornings, conversations that acknowledged the past without being trapped by it. Sarah met Noah not as a social worker, but as someone who genuinely cared. She never tried to replace Rebecca. She honored her memory, understanding that love didn't erase loss, it grew around it. Michael faced his greatest challenge not in trusting Sarah, but in forgiving himself for believing he didn't deserve happiness. With time, he learned that second chances weren't betrayals of the past, they were bridges to the future. As their bond deepened, Michael felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Not the fragile kind, but the steady, resilient kind built on honesty, patience, and grace. If this story is touching your heart right now, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement means more than you know. And before the story ends, we have a special request. Please comment below with the word hope if you believe that love can find us again, even after loss. On a quiet evening months later, Michael watched Noah laugh as he chased fireflies in the backyard, Sarah standing beside him, her hand resting gently in his. The past no longer felt like a weight dragging him down, but a chapter that had shaped him into someone capable of deeper love. In that moment, Michael understood that agreeing to a blind date hadn't been a mistake. It had been the first step toward healing, toward family, toward a future he never thought he'd have again.